going to start now, and we're at the VA hospital in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and today is the 12th of May, 2005, and I'm talking with Roy Albert, A-L-B-E-R-T, and we met, I think, first when I came to the POW group here.
That's correct.
Several months ago.
Yes.
Yeah. And I tried to recruit a number of people, and you were one of the people that signed up. I'd like to start a little bit before your POW experience. Sure. And ask you, you were drafted, you said, you told me.
I was drafted, yes.
How old were you then, Roy?
I was 18 when I was drafted. Yeah, November of '43, and finally shipped out from home on March of '43.
Where was home then?
The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Norway, Michigan. Shipped out from at that time to north of Chicago, Sheridan, I think Camp Sheridan or Fort Sheridan.
Yeah.
And then,
now, were you recruited into, you told me which outfit you were in.
okay, that's a long story.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, first of all, they did not take me in because I was at the University of Michigan, a pre-med program.
Oh, yeah?
Once the semester was over, they said, you must leave, must go.
No deferment, huh?
No deferment. I wanted to go in, okay, because I had been encouraged, and I had discussed with my dad from World War I various aspects of it, and I really wanted to get over there and get this war over. Okay.
It's going to be a quickie war, right?
It was, really, for me, yeah. So, anyway, that's how it started. So I was removed from the University of Michigan and tried to capsulize the training period and all. I was shipped to Camp Roberts, California for infantry training, and that was a 90-day wonder situation. And I had really always wanted to be a pilot, so they shipped me from the infantry to CCNY in New York. So I had a semester and a half in New York, and then my application was accepted for the Air Force. So I was shipped to Miami for the medical exams, in the informational, to see if I was up to par as far as the Air Force. And then was shipped to Malden, Missouri for flight training. Now I was ready to solo when they needed men in Europe. So I was literally told that I had to leave the Air Force to go. And I was really perturbed, as everyone would be, because I had lived for this and was getting good at it, you know, flying. But they said, no, we need infantrymen more. I said, well, I'll only go, and I'll never know how the captain listed or listened to me at all. But I won't go unless I get further training if I'm going to be in the infantry. So they send me for ranger training, and
oh wow,
and yeah, ranger training and parachute training at Fort Bragg. Okay, and after about 5-6 months or so of this training, I felt as though I was ready to go, and I was. And so I was then reconnected to the infantry, the 106th Infantry Division, and went to went to maneuvers with them in Alabama or Kentucky, out of Indianapolis. And at that time, a very short time after being drafted, really, a lot of things happened in a short number of days, but I was within 3 weeks from that time, I was in Europe.
Wow.
On the hedgerows, yeah.
Where,
Yeah. So
near Omaha Beach, then?
No, I did not land with them. I was a month late.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But it was just after the beach was secured.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is interesting.
Yeah.
But it was at that time they bought a large group, a shipload of infantrymen over there. Where do they put you? So the 35th needed men. So they took me out of the 106th Infantry Division, and I joined the 35th Infantry Division, Company C, 134th Infantry Regiment. Now the 106th ended up going to the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So I you know, short resume.
Yeah. Where did you, you saw some combat?
I saw a lot of combat.
And was this in France?
It was all
Germany?
in France.
All in France?
I was part of any drive on Nancy, any drive on many of those,
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7 important ones, crossed the Siegfried Line and all of this sort of thing. And finally, we headed to, we were going to be the lead group to enter Germany at the Saar Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Because historically, the Saar Valley was fought over between Germany and France for hundreds of years. So that's where we were heading, and we had a secure position after about 3 or 4 river crossings. We had a secure foothold in Germany. Problem is that the last river crossing, we were blindsided, and the SS troopers caught us.
Oh, did they? Oh.
Yeah, they wrapped us up pretty good, and we ended up, they ended up killing at least 120 or more of our company. The company is normally 200 men, but we were under strength, so yeah. There were 12 of us who lived at the river crossing. Yeah.
12 of you out of nearly 200 survived?
200 or so, yes.
And you got captured?
Got captured, yeah. And I was hit. I was captured. I was hit and wounded, but I was mobile.
Uh-huh.
So that I could carry neither here nor there as long as I could stand up and keep
Mm-hmm.
going. But I was captured, and then we were, of course, shipped to the various camps. 5 different camps, by the way.
5 different German camps?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any particular reason for that?
Yeah. I have a feeling they shipped us to the first camp because it was adjacent to the V2 or whatever rocket that was being sent to London. And I believe, but I have no sure knowledge of this, but I think we were put in that camp adjacent to the rocket launching area with the thought that the rocket facility would not be bombed because prisoners were there.
Had they announced it that there were prisoners at these areas?
I only assume,
Uh-huh.
because they liked to take any advantage they could, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a hunch that they did. But we were hit.
You were hit anyhow?
We were hit by unfortunately, friendly fire. you know. And we lost, of the 12 of us who got back to that point, 5 more were killed.
5 out of the 12
5
were
out of
killed?
the 12 of my company, yeah.
Were these British, American planes? What?
It was a British plane. I only know it because they had a tendency to drop flares, the British did, and then bomb the flare. So I just believe, I had seen that before, and I just believed that it was neither here nor there, you know, but it's a fact, and that's...
Now, you were in a whole bunch of battles before you were captured,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How many were you? I mean, what?
At least 5 strong ones.
5 major battles?
Very difficult ones, yeah, very difficult ones.
And were you wounded in any of those?
I was negligible as far as wounds are concerned, you know. I had my side, that was a lot of shrapnel the day I was captured. But it's sort of like a BB gun thing. However, I did carry shrapnel in my knee for 58 years. Finally had it operated and removed.
Oh, did you?
When I replaced my knee, yeah.
Oh, you have,
Yeah.
Oh, that's something. So you were in, you say about 5 major battles before you were captured, and then you were captured and shuttled around to different camps. How were you treated in those camps? I guess it depends on which camp.
Yeah, it was, and I was also in Stalag IIIA, which is a camp, and I am not sure where that was located, and I should really have recorded that. But and then 2 others, and finally we had the offer for more food if we would go on a work party.
Oh.
So I went to a labor camp in Potsdam, Germany. Yeah, that's where I worked.
So they would
more food, by the way.
They did give you more food?
Yeah.
Oh,
But I was down to 135 pounds
from
180.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was still tight muscle, strong. You know.
Well, you were,
Good.
you know, teenager still.
Yeah.
Indestructible teenager.
Indestructible.
Right.
Young and sassy.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
They gave you more food to keep your energy up so that you could work. Is that it?
Work harder, sure.
What kind of work did you do?
I was building security places around the old Kaiser Palace in Potsdam.
Oh yeah.
And we built bunkers at the 4 corners of the facility. I don't know if they were just trying to keep us busy, but I think that they assumed there would be Americans or Russians or somebody coming there, and they would be ready to defend it. Yeah, I've seen that palace, by the way.
You've seen the what?
I went back to Germany to see.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And we were housed in a cattle barn, you know, but it was the best housing I had in those few months I was captured, because I was only captured from December 12th to May 9th, end of the war. That's all.
Things were getting pretty tough, though, at that time, weren't they? And you know, were you shipped around more towards the end of the war than?
The first camp, as I mentioned, near the V2 rocket facility. The next camp was very quickly after that, and we were there for 2-3 months. Now, this was a camp which had been used to train the young boys for the military. So it was a nice facility.
You mean the Hitler Youth?
Hitler Youth Group, yes. it was a nice facility, and good facility, you know. Became less and less as we were forced to leave those areas.
Yeah.
And most of the time we walked between, sometimes we were on the train, you know. The old 40 and 8 you read about?
Yeah,
World
right.
War I.
Were you ever in any of those?
Yeah. 2 different camps, we moved that way.
Yeah, I understand that they kind of stuffed you in there.
We were stuffed. We actually shared space for sleeping, and because if everyone laid down, there wouldn't be enough room, you know. So we shared time.
Oh,
Yeah, on the floor. And there were times when we literally were not out for 24 hours, you know, day and a half, not even let out. But the boards were spaced, so we got air and a lot of human waste odors.
Yeah, yeah.
And nothing. The first day and a half, there was nothing for us, and then we ended up having some bread and kartoffel soup, you know.
Yeah. Your parents were notified that you were missing in action.
Yes.
When did they find out
Okay.
that you weren't missing in action?
The Germans had a form that was sent. It was a form that was sent to the U.S. Army as well as relatives, etc. If a person so desired. And I actually have a copy of the card that was sent from Stalag IIIA.
Oh yeah.
On, if my memory is right, on December 21st. And I think I have a copy.
How long did it take before your parents got this note? This card?
I don't know if there's a date stamp on it or not, but I never thought about that. That's a good observation.
Yeah. Sometimes it took forever to get it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was prompt.
Was it?
I think so. Articles in the Norway Current. I have an article that said Roy Albert is missing in action. And then, so if that article has a date, I think we could almost determine when she got the notice.
You were a staff sergeant by the time you got out.
Yeah, yes.
Well,
And that, however, that action took place, the actual change in rank took place 58 years after.
was that right?
And it was a result of reviewing records from the St. Louis Conservatory where they had the fire, and the records that they found gave me the staff sergeant rank and actually a field commission.
Oh, is that right?
So I'm really a second lieutenant.
You were a field commissioner, commissioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a permanent rank of staff sergeant.
Yeah. Now, since you asked me that, I do remember that no, I'm losing it right now.
No, go ahead.
But I'll think about it.
That's okay. I know that a lot of times the people were commissioned, so-called battlefield commissioned, and those usually held a permanent rank, a lesser rank. So that's really where you fit in.
And the application by my captain, company commander, was made in the last 2 weeks of our drive to the Saar Valley, you see, and that's when the application was made. And then I even think I may have showed you copies of the burned records of
Yes,
from
right.
St. Louis.
From St. Louis, yes.
Yeah, and that's where it occurred, that information. However, the records really are incomplete because there are too much of the record was damaged by the fire. Now, when I was liberated from the camp, I walked to the Elbe River and to get to the American lines. Okay.
Who liberated you?
The Americans.
The Americans?
Yeah. The Germans left the camp. They didn't want any part of it anymore. So we were really free to go, and I'll never forget that last 4-day walk or 5-day walk. We moved, just two of us, moved from a walking to finding a bike, and it collapsed, to actually getting a Mercedes out of the garage and driving it until it ran out of diesel fuel, and then walked the rest of the way. Yeah.
How far do you figure it was from your camp?
I would say, knowing Potsdam to the Elbe River, 35, 40 miles. Yeah, not far. Yeah, it's because the Elbe River is just north of Potsdam. Yeah. But everything was ruined. The bridges were out, etc. So my crossing the Elbe River was by way of boat, which I commandeered, and we got across. And,
When you received your so-called battlefield commission, what were your responsibilities then? Were you
what actually happened is that we had lost our leader,
Yeah.
so I kind of took it over. Now, I did not know about the commission, battlefield commission, until 58 years later. Yeah.
Well, what were what responsibilities did you have at that time?
Just lead the remaining troops. That's all that we could do. It was on a river crossing, and it was just a case of, I had been trained to do it, you know, and truthfully, sergeants were as important as lieutenants, because we're all part of a small team working for, you know, to end the war if we could.
Yeah, right. It was basically not much different than what you were doing as a non-commissioned officer.
No difference. No difference at all. Because I'm the type of a person who took hold wherever I could, and you know, my boss used to say, "Go and do it, Roy," and Roy went and did it. You know, that's about what it was.
Already done. Yeah.
And we all worked as a team, and that river crossing, you know, we were short of men. Somebody had to do it, right? And Joe on the side could do it as well as I could, you know. It just happened that it was a case where he had said, you should have this rank changed. So, yeah.
You said you were transported from camp to camp, and eventually you were liberated by the American forces and then caught up to the American lines.
Yeah,
what happened then?
The American forces actually didn't touch us.
What do you mean didn't touch us?
Our guards, the German guards, left us.
Oh.
So we were free to go. So in a sense, we were liberated, but in true sense, we just, you know, we were released and took off. And we met a group of Russian soldiers and told us that the American line is this way, so we followed our noses that way, and it ended up to the Elbe River. We honestly didn't know where we were going.
Going that way.
We were going that way.
We were going west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
What kind of a unit did you find when this was pretty much the end of the war, wasn't it?
It was the end of the war, and I would love to be able to tell you who I met first, but I do not know.
Uh-huh.
I do not know what the outfit was that released us. A friend of mine now at Beaumont Hospital, he says, Roy, I'm going to research that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So he's starting that, and maybe I'll know eventually.
Uh-huh.
All I really care is because he's a 70-year-old man and I'm an 80-year-old man. As long as he finds between 70 and 80 and give me a copy, that's fine with me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like it to be part of the history of that.
Yeah, sure.
Less important than a lot of things are, though. Yeah. But it was a nice outfit. When we got there, of course, I had a beard that was, you know, I wouldn't recognize myself. We got showered, shaved, and fed. And,
Did you? Were you shipped to one of the camps where you were transported back home?
Within 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4 weeks, we were on our way home. I was asked if what I wanted to do, if I wanted to be shipped to England, to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
or what did you want to do? So I said, no, let's get home. So that's what we did. But within a month of being liberated, I was home. I was actually on my hometown, but visiting with my parents. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
within a month.
It was not necessary for you to be in a hospital or anything? You didn't?
No,
No?
I was told that if you so desire, you walk now for 20, 30 miles, you're probably able to go on. So they put us through a field hospital in France, you know, and okayed to ship home.
You told me before that there were things that either you don't remember or you hadn't thought of for over 50 years. Was that, why was that? I mean, did they just blank out of your memory? You didn't want to remember them, or?
Yeah, I think it's a love of what I was doing professionally,
Uh-huh.
because I did go back to college, and I terminated my pre-med training after 3 years because my body wouldn't take it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And then changed courses and became an architect, self-employed architect.
Uh-huh.
And so I loved what I was doing so much that until you're asked 50, 55 years later what you did during the war by your granddaughter,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You just didn't think about it. And
No
or
one
at
else
least
in your
I didn't.
No one else in your family had asked you?
Nobody had asked me, no.
Is that right?
There were a few people who knew some things when they saw me first, right after I was liberated home. And I was shipped from home to Fort Ord, California for discharge. And it took from May to November, intense hospital and et cetera, that sort of thing too. So that the Army knew that I was able to do it on my own, you see. So then I was discharged. So that was November of 45.
45, yeah. Did you go back to U of M then, or?
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, spent
Gotcha.
9 good years here.
Have you? Uh-huh.
Yeah, because three was in pre-med and 5 in architecture, and then sticking around because we love the town so much.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed around.
Where did you have your practice?
I'm sorry?
Where did you practice your architecture?
I practiced from, I graduated finally in 1953.
Mm-hmm.
And within 4 years, I was on my own. I became registered very quickly, and started my own practice then in 1960. Yeah, 1960.
Did you have anybody else working with you, for you?
Oh, yeah. I averaged over the, I finally closed the office about, oh boy, when was that anyway? I don't know when it was. About 10, 15 years. When I was 65 or 68 or 69.
One of those, yeah.
One of those years. I only say it that way because the end of my practice ended up being done in the basement of my house.
Oh, uh-huh.
You know, just to keep busy, yeah. But no, I supported, we had a good crew. I averaged about 8 men in my practice, yeah.
That's quite a
good group.
That's quite a company.
Yeah.
Yeah. And were you practicing all over Michigan, all over southeast Michigan?
Actually, 3 states.
Oh.
Yeah, I did things in Ohio and Illinois and, of course, Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah.
Yeah. I had, it seemed as though when Roy got a contract that if there was a job done by this group, Roy did it. And that's why I was so excited about my practice that I could forget all of the past, not worry about it. Yeah.
And it wasn't until your granddaughter,
Until my granddaughter started.
who was in the 5th grade at the time, said, "What did you do, Grandpa, during the war?"
That's it. And that was a good project, you know, and what you're trying to do now is sort of in the same vein as the letter implies that she wrote to me. Yeah.
Well, this is part of the national project, Veterans History Project, and there are little pieces of it here and there, but we're doing it, and we were fortunate enough to hook up with Wayne Byram here at the hospital. So, yeah.
Good man.
So we were able to get a lot of recruits that way, who were telling us their story. And what we do is, you know, the history itself goes to Washington, but we also want to find a place locally where these histories can be kept. And maybe you and I can later on talk about where in this area you'd like DVD sent, or who would be willing to take those on.
Sure, you bet.
You know,
That's so important.
it sure is.
I have 5 grandkids of my daughter and 2 others, you know, and all of the kids, because of Mary asking me this question, are now fairly up to date on what happened because they had to know. So if you had to know, I'll get it for you.
You have how many grandchildren now?
I actually have 6.
6
I have 5 and one on the way. But she's so close to being delivered, I can't.
Might as well say yes. Okay. And maybe it would be nice to have each one of those have a DVD or something to.
Oh, how deep that would be.
That would be great, huh? Yeah, we'll do that.
My son-in-law he wants to know. He knows I'm here because he asked me so many times that I eventually have to say I'm here and where I am. And
They keep saying, "When are you going?"
When are you going? I told him I had to cancel out of a meeting with the Ann Arbor Press, for instance, you know, and so he asked me just last Sunday night, "Are you going? Are you going on Thursday to Ann Arbor? Are you going?" So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to hook up, and I'm appreciative of your time. I know it's not easy for you to get all the way down here from, from your home.
We're all part of life, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's a big story, from your story, my story, to,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, life in general. It's get together, shake hands, and hug
Mhm.
each other, and whatever it takes to make us happy, yeah.
Was there anything else that you'd like to have us record, or anything else you'd like to say?
I have a cute little story.
Mhm.
I met a Frenchman who was 8 years old when the U.S. forces hit the beach.
Oh. Mhm.
I could not understand him. He could not understand me, except we knew each
Mhm.
other. So we met in just as a lark, and we talked about this, and it was very interesting. And it's a great story, because he was 8 years old, his wife was 7, you know,
Uh-huh.
6 or 7, and there they were together, and we felt as though we knew each other for 58 years. You
Uh-huh.
know? And that's true.
You've been to Europe.
I've been back to Europe twice, but
Mhm.
not to the beach.
Mhm.
I didn't want. I now know I made a mistake not going back last year.
Did you?
Yeah, I should have gone back, but you know, it's okay.
Well,
You never know.
yeah. My uncle was on Omaha Beach,
Oh,
and he didn't want to go back.
no.
No. So there's nothing that he wanted to remember about that. Nothing. So, you know, it takes all sorts.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is an interesting story. Our last vacation to the Dominican Republic,
Uh-huh.
I met a brother of a World War II vet who would never tell him about his experiences. I said, you know, the best thing that could happen, if it's bothering you, if it's not bothering you, forget it.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
But if it's bothering you, to at least call Roy, and we can talk about it if you want to talk about it, and go from there.
Yeah.
I believe that this is going to occur sometime this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And it may be a case where I'll call you.
Oh, please do, by all means, yes. Yeah.
Because
You know, you find that a lot of veterans, a lot of POWs don't talk to their children about it, but somehow the grandkids get them going about it, and that's certainly been your experience.
I have my one son in Florida is a nurse practitioner,
Uh-huh.
and he's the type of a guy who asks me at certain times. So he has information, you know,
Mhm.
bits and pieces over the many years, and he has treated in his practice in Florida quite a few of the old duffers from 1943,
Mhm.
45, you know, from the war. And so he says, I think I know what you went through more from the people I treat.
Yeah. Than from what you
from
told
you.
him. Yeah.
But he is up to date on all of the paperwork that you have seen so far
Mm-hmm.
of my history.
Okay.
Yeah, he has copies of that.
Okay. And I'll make sure that you have enough copies for him and for your daughter and your grandkids. Okay. All right. Roy, it's been great talking with you. Thank you for your
That's
time.
good.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
And I think we'll get you to your meeting on time.